But essentially, what you do is, if as you're going to come in and add a question, you simply add a question. It's going to ask you for a type first.
Mhm.
You're just going to want to select prompt, and then this is when you're going to get all of the items for your prompt. So you still have your can conditions, but this prompt here actually ends up being a multi-step type thing in here, and we'll walk you through this. So question name is exactly where you are going to put what will show to a QC rep should they see this in the tool. What is the actual question, just like it is today? It has nothing to do with though what the QC tool actually runs when it goes through the AI. This is merely a label of what it is that you're putting out there for the team.
Okay.
So it's definitely like call it the consumer facing language. Now,
Mhm.
this button is really important for you to test items. So what this button does is it essentially will run the AI. It will record the result of pass, fail, or whatever we would want it to be, but then it'll force it to be a verify so that it still pops into the queue for the QC team to look at.
Okay.
They will then record their result of pass, fail, and then we can get you a report on the back end to show you differences between those two. So as you continue down um, this thing in here, the can conditions are still the same thing, conditions for when it does. Now the prompt type, when you create a prompt, you can do multi-step prompts. And why this is important is because it's important to understand just kind of how the AI thinks in very binary, logical terms. So what we found in the testing is that if we asked it to do two things at once, you'd sometimes get incorrect results from how it would evaluate those things, because it would kind of combine both prompts into one thing. And I'll show you some examples here in a second. So what we did is made it to where you can essentially be very explicit into one item that you want to check for, and then decide how to move on from there. So there's
Okay.
two prompt types. There's essentially a calculation, which is I want to extract some information out of the report that I'm not going to use to actually determine a pass fail. It's just I want to find a value first. So if you do a calculation, it will automatically change this to be a continue. Now this toggle right here, include details, is really important because if you toggle this on, the results of this question will show up in the findings.
Yeah,
If you
I like
don't turn
that.
it on, it won't show up in the findings. Now, the other is now where you actually do an evaluation. So we also had to build it to where you had to have the ability to evaluate something. And if it failed, it didn't mean that the question failed. It just means that you have to now look for like a comment, or you have to look at another box or something else before you can determine a pass fail. So what you do is based on how you write the question, and you should be writing everything to basically say, like, for the evaluation is like, is this true or false, basically, right? So
Okay.
does this match, or does this whatever? When you get when you write that question, you will then be able to select what happens as with that result. So if it's true, I can basically choose to continue. In other words, I'm going to go down to the next level of prompting. If it's failed, it'll bail and it'll fail the question.
Mm.
If it's passed, it will bail and it'll fail and it'll pass the question. So you have to be careful as you build these out to make sure that, if I'm going to continue checking, you've got continue done. If it's passed, whatever. You also then have the option for each of these results to put them in the report or not.
Awesome.
So to do one of the more fun examples that we did, what we'll do is I'll show you how we built this. Is the occupancy status noted on page one consistent with the photos? Okay, so uh, what we ended up doing, this still stays the same. I'm just going to copy and paste this from the other screen. This still stays the same as in terms of what that question name is. I believe force manual is verify is on. So what we did here is we calculated a few things and then did an evaluation. So what we did is a calculation, and we said, what furniture do you see in the bedrooms from the subject property photos? And this is included in the details. It then continues, and I do another calculation, and I probably went overboard on this. I mean, some of this was just testing um, what it was. I did kitchen, and I also did like, any other living areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, include those details. And then the final step is, and then we also asked um, a calculation of what was the occupancy of the subject based on the text in the report, right? Um, and then the final step is the actual evaluation, included. And we did, does the occupancy type listed by the appraiser match the results of looking for furniture at the property?
Mm-hmm.
If it's true, go ahead and pass, include. If it's false, go ahead and do failed and also include those details. And then that would be the question of that report. So if I take a look at an example here, let me just grab an order ID. So I come in, okay, here we go. So the bedrooms and the subject property photos contain typical furniture such as beds and dressers. The kitchen contains standard appliances and fixtures, including a stove, refrigerator, and cabinets. The main living area include furniture such as sofas and tables, indicating occupancy. The report states the property is owner occupied. The occupancy type listed by the appraiser matches the observed furniture and occupancy indicated in the photos.
Awesome. So
So that's how you get all of that detail.
that's awesome. I love that. That's very exciting. For the QC team.